Hello and welcome to the channel where we talk about all things Weiss Schwarz and chill with friends. My name is Liam and today I'd like to talk about my quintessential quintuplets Itsuki 8-door waifu deck profile. Now, if you are new to the channel here, please consider subscribing to the channel, and if you enjoyed this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. As well as that, please make sure to check out my other social medias on Twitch, on Discord, on Twitter, and on Patreon. All those links are in the description below. But let's jump straight in. Now, if you've seen some of my latest videos, I've been opening some quintessential quintuplets set 2 boxes on my channel. If you haven't already, links are in the description below where you can watch those. And from that, I've been able to build at least 3 decks for now. One is the 8 standby Nino build, the meta build as you will. I've also built the Exodia deck, where I will be posting a video about that in the next couple of weeks. And I've also built this deck, the 8-door build, which actually, in my opinion, works better as a waifu build. Now, first of all, what makes a waifu build? Now, the way that the community tends to see a waifu build is that in your 50 card deck, you're only allowed a maximum of 4 cards, which do not include the waifu that you're building your deck around. So for example, with Itsuki, I have got 46 or more cards with Itsuki in it, and up to 4 cards where it's not Itsuki. So that is what, from what I've played for as long as I've played, in terms of what a waifu deck consists of, if you ever enter a waifu tournament, that is basically the recommendation and the requirements for building a waifu deck. But yeah, during this deck profile video, please make sure to let me know in the comments below, what do you think about this build? Do you think the 8-door build is better as not a waifu build? Would you make any changes to this deck? Would you add any random one-off text and things like that? Again, let me know in the comments below. I'll be really interested to hear what you guys think, as well as actually it might actually help improve my deck. So yeah, any recommendations or things like that, please let me know in the comments below. But let's jump in. So first of all, starting with our level 0s, we're on 17 level 0s, and the ones you want to see to start with are 3 copies of quintessential quintuplets Itsuki Nakano. It is a level 0 Slayer, meaning that when this card becomes reversed, if the battle opponent is level 0 or lower, you may also reverse that card. And also, when this card is sent from stage to waiting room, you may discard a card from your hand, and if you do, you can look up the top 4 cards of your deck, choose a level 1 or higher card amongst those, and add it to your hand, get rid of the rest. So that is the Fuka Zero, or some people call it Chiuri, or as we call it in the UK, Gregory. It is that profile, as well as the level 0 Slayer. It's a very good card, and if you can see this turn 1 is pretty good, because it means 1, you've got a character on the field, fantastic. You've also got a card that if your opponent wants to attack into it, they are basically sacrificing their own character in the process, so you're making them lose resource, or they basically have to direct or hide attack or do stuff around it, so that then you've got a second character to attack with for the next turn. Not only that, we run 1 copy of Method to Feel Better Itsuki Nakano. This card is on play, you may pay 2, and if you do, choose one of your opponent's characters and return it to their hand. And also, during your opponent's draw phase, at the beginning of your opponent's draw phase, you can reveal the top card of your deck, and if that is a level 1 or higher card, you can bounce this back to your hand. So it's a bounce back to your opponent, which usually happens on level 3s, where it's you pay the cost for the level 3, which is just normally 2, you play it, and then you get the bounce backs with no cost. So you're still paying the 2 costs regardless, but the fact you've got access to it at level 0 is just rather nice. And also it's the coin flip, meaning that if you get it back to your hand, you've got another card to attack with next turn. You can spam the bounce back ability if you need to. It's just a rather good card. Moving swiftly on, we've got the Pure Wish Itsuki Nakano. It is a search brainstorm where it's a pay 1 tap self, and for every door climax that you hit, you get to search for a quintuplets character. Not only that, if you've got 5 or more cards in your hand, you may give, during your turn, 500 power to the characters in front of it. But in my opinion, the most important ability of this card is that it's a continuous effect where your hand size limit is increased by 1. So normally your hand size limit in Weiss Schwarz is 7. If you've got one of these out, your max hand size is 8. If you've got 2 of them, it's 9. Now, whilst that doesn't seem like the biggest thing in the world, with this deck, and we'll come to it when we hit our level 1 combo, having an increased hand size is so good. And I said we'll come back to that very shortly. Moving swiftly on, we also run one copy of the super shiny, gentle and sincere Itsuki Nakano. It is a free runner, so it can basically, at the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, may move to an open slot on your opponent's stage, providing there's a character facing it, I believe. Yes. And also, if you've got 5 or more characters on the field, this is also a 2k backup. By that, during the counter step, you can use this card as a backup from your hand, like a hand trap, and you can give the character in battle, your character, an extra 2000 power. That's pretty good. So you'll notice in this deck there are a lot of counters, and this is just one of them. This deck overall runs 6 different counters. Very good card. It's an OFR. You can run it as more than one. I actually quite like it as a one-off, basically because if you see it early game, great, it's a runner, it's awesome. But if you see it later game, you've got your level 1 counters, which we'll come to later. So you don't need it as the counter, but having that extra 2k counter is rather useful. Not only that as well, I would rather not run more of this because you want a relatively high level 1 or higher count. So I could run it as 2. I did run it as 2 at first, but I think 1 is absolutely fine. Plus it means that I only have to run the 1 OFR, which makes me very happy. Moving on to our non-waifu cards, actually. We run 3 copies as an actress, Itsuki Nakano. This is on play. You may look at the top card of your deck and either keep it there or put it to waiting room. And also it's a pay 1, put the top card of your deck to clock, and if you do, search for a level 1 or lower character, a Ricky if you will. This card is really good. It lets you get your level 1 combos. It lets you recycle your level 0s. It also gives you a top scry as well, which is pretty useful if you're going to your level 1 combo and you want to make sure you're hitting, which we'll talk about in a moment. This card, I would run as a 4 of. The only reason I'm running as a 3 of is because I want this to be a waifu deck. So I am restricted to 3 because the 4th non-waifu card is this, since secretly making an effort, Itsuki Nakano. Now this card is, when this card is placed from stage to hand, you may choose a card in your hand and put it to stock. When you've got loads of hand, just giving yourself a free stock from this, freaking great. And not only that, it is a climax swapper, and by that I mean you can pay on play, you may pay 1, discard a climax, and then get a climax from your waiting room and add to your hand, so you can basically change your climaxes. This card is really good. It's probably the best climax swapper in the set. There is a climax swapper with Itsuki, I believe, but it's just not that good. This card is so good, especially when you've got spare hand that you can just chuck into stock. You have to run this card. I'm sorry, I think this card is probably one of the best climax swappers in the game, let alone in the set. Strong recommendation as a one-off. You could run more, but again, I'm only running it as a one-off because I want this to be a waifu deck. Otherwise, I'll be running 4 of this and probably 2 of this. But yes, there are non-waifu cards. They both happen to be Itsuki. Sorry, Yotsuba, I love you. But these cards are good. And your cards are kind of crap. Apart from the level 1 combo. That's fine. Anyway, moving on. We have 2 copies of Echoing Itsuki Nakano. This is a level swap, so meaning that during your turn as an act ability, you can rest it, and you can choose one card in your level and 1 character in your waiting room and swap them. Now, this is important because your level 1 game requires experience. Now, for those who don't know what experience is, means that you must have a certain cards in your level zone, whether it be certain named cards, whether it be certain color, whether it be certain combined level. You must have that requirement in your level zone, which we'll come to with our level 1 combo because that requires experience, as does our level 3 combo. So this card is really good, just be able to fix your level. If you can't get the card that you want into your level on your first go, it's very good just to have to be able to fix that quite easily. Not only that as well, if you use an act ability, it also gives one of your characters, your choice, an extra 1000 power. So you'll notice in this deck that there are a lot of abilities that require the use of acts and things like that. So having the ability to use an act like that to basically activate your other card's abilities to basically increase the power is just a rather good card to have. Moving on to our final ones-of, we've got 3 more ones-ofs. We run 1 copy of Studying in Advance Itsuki Nakano. This card is got two abilities, two active abilities. The first one is you can rest this card and choose one of your other quintuplets characters and give it the following effect until the end of turn. When this card's battle opponent becomes reversed, you may put the top card of your opponent's clock to their waiting room, and if you do, put the battle opponent into your opponent's clock. So basically, it gets rid of problem cards that would normally go to waiting room, looking at the likes of Aqua from Hololive. It deals with that very, very well. And not only that, it is a free, costless act ability, which again will help you later on. Second effect as well, it's got another act ability, which is a pay to rest this card. And if you do that, you get to choose a quintuplet character in your waiting room and return it to your hand. So it's a pay to salvage basically that you can spam once per turn. It is an act ability, which again helps the deck as a whole. It's just a very good card, but it's a one-off because your back row slots are quite restricted. You've got your brainstorms, you've got this, you've got your level swap. So you've got quite a few back row cards. Those are the only back row cards in the deck. You don't run anything at level 1, 2, or 3. But you want the flexibility to be able to mix around based upon your matchup. There are some times where you will never play this card. There are some times where you'll never play this card. You'll always play this card. But yeah, it's just a good option to have for the deck. Another one of we have Towards Her Dream, Itsuki Nakano. This card is when this card is placed from stage to hand, you may put one card from your hand to your clock. And if you do, look at the top X card, look up to the top X cards of your deck. Choose a card amongst those and add to your hand, where X is equal to the number of other quintuplets character you have on the stage. So basically, as long as you've got a full board and you play this last, you basically get to look at top 4, add a card, and then get rid of the rest. So it's a really good way of getting your climaxes if you need it, or your events, anything like that. It's also a pseudo Ricky. It damages yourself. So if you need to push yourself to level 1, this card will do that for you. It's a good card. Not only that as well, its second effect, which not a lot of people use, but it's good to have as well, is when your opponent plays a climax, you may put this card to your stock. So again, it's another opportunity to generate stock. Yeah, I rate this card as a one-off. I don't think need more of a one-off. But it's a very, very good card. And finally, this is a bit of a tech that I've decided to run, but it is one copy of Awkward Personality Itsuki Nakano. So this is a drop salvage, so I'll explain why I've gone for this card, given that, you know, you've got your doors, which are salvages, you've got the level 2 event, which is a salvage. Why would I run this card? So first of all, it's a pay 1, discard 1, get a character from your waiting room, add it to hand, and give one of your other characters 1,000 power. And also, when this card attacks, you may put the top card of your deck to your waiting room. If it's a climax, you may salvage one. So, why do we run a drop salvage when there's already a lot of salvage in the deck? The climaxes only salvage if you trigger it. Realistically, in this deck, you do not want to be triggering climaxes. There are some times where you will, of course you will, but 9 times out of 10, you do not want to be triggering climaxes. As a result of that, having a level 0 that you can use to salvage is just a good thing to have. Not only that, comparing it to the level 2 event, whilst it is a salvage, and it's a good salvage on the event, the problem with it is it's level 2, which means if you need to salvage something during level 0, level 1, you have no option to unless you run this card. So having this as an option is fantastic. Not only that as well, the fact that if you look at the top card of your deck from, say, the Ichika, just trying to think what else looks at top. I don't think there is actually. But yeah, if you look at the top card of your deck from this and go, oh, it's a climax, attack with this first. You get to mill that climax. You also get a free salvage. So this basically becomes a plus 1 just on itself. So it's plussing from its climax, plussing from its drop salvage effect. It's also plussing from the attack as well. Like, it's just a really good card. And this is a trial deck card, and not a lot of people consider this card. I like this card, and as a one-off, it saved me on many a time where I've been able to salvage before level 2, get my level 1 combo, and just go off. I think this is a great card. I was actually very tempted to run this as a 2-off. But again, due to space, I think 1 is absolutely fine. And that's my level 0s. Let's move straight on to our level 1s. So we run 11 level 1s, and of course we must start with our level 1 combo, the Budding Trust Itsuki Nakano. This card has 2 effects. First of all, if you use an act ability, it gains 1,500 power for the turn, so it gets to 6k. But its climax combo, which combos with the Visiting Her Mother's Grave climax, the first door, is as follows. Experience. If you have When this card attacks, if you have Visiting Her Mother's Grave in your climax area and the combined level in your level zone is equal to 2 or more, you may pay the cost, which is discard 1. If you do, reveal the top 3 or up to the top 3 cards of your deck, add any characters or event named code word and add them to your hand. It pluses a lot. Good. Yeah, this card is nuts. Like, if you plus on these, like, there are times where sure you'll accidentally hit the climax. So every single card in this deck, apart from your climaxes, are hits for this combo. Now, whilst obviously, again, you can hit a climax and it means you're only plus 2 cards rather than 1, 3. Sure, it happens. But my God, if you plus 3 and you plus 3 every turn, your hand is stacked. The disadvantage of it is you don't get to choose exactly what characters you want, in the sense of it's just whatever you get from the top 3. But the fact you get to plus 3 cards from to your hand is actually crazy. You could go into your level 1 turn, triple combo off this, starting with, I don't know, go into your attack phase, might have 2, 3 cards in hand. You then complete a full combo with this, you can basically plus 6 cards. You can put yourself to 7, 8, 9 cards in hand, which is why the brainstorm is so important. Your ability to make a big hand is so good with this deck, especially with this combo. So having the ability to increase your hand size and not then have to just discard cards at the end of the turn is massive. And that's why this brainstorm is so good. And if you ever see it, you keep it, you play it, and you start getting your hand size limit up. This is, in my opinion, one of the best level 1 combos the set has. It is an incredibly good card. People might know the effect for the top 3 as a Miyu combo from Ilia, from Fate Ilia. So yeah, it's a very, very good combo. Yes, it can whiff, of course it can, but the fact it's discard a card means that if you've got too many climaxes in your hand, you can get rid of dead climaxes. If you've got the 2-1 event that you don't need in your hand right now, get rid of it. And the only potential downside to it is that you do require experience. So this is why in your first turn hand, normally if you see anything level 2 or higher, you tend to get rid of them because you don't want them. The exception is with this deck. You want to keep at least 1 card that you want to make sure that goes into your level to make sure that you get the experience. Or you make sure you keep one of your level swappers so that you can fix that later on. Either or, you need to make sure that, you know, in my opinion, the first card that goes into your level should always be the level 2 event, because you don't actually need to run 3 in a sense of you're going to be playing it and playing it and playing it. The reason you run 3 is 1, it's a plus from this, and secondly, it's a level 2. This has experience too. So just being able to level up with one of your events is massive. That's why I run 3 in this build, which we'll come to later. Moving on to the rest of the set. So as already mentioned, this card gains power if you use an act ability. Now, act abilities can come from one of 2 ways. 1, when you use an act ability as part of your main phase, or secondly, if you use a backup, which as part of its effect has an act ability, because the backup effect is actually classed as an act. This is where 3 copies of the 2000 power backup, it is called Table Sharing Acquaintances, Itsuki Nakano. It is a 2000 backup where the act is just 1000 power, give character in battle, and then if when you use this card backup, if you have a quintuplets character, choose one of your characters in battle and it gains another 1000 power. So it's basically guaranteed to be a 2000 power backup. So if you use this on defense, your Itsuki is going to be 4-5 plus 2000 from this, making it 6-5. Because you use an act ability, it becomes 8000. If you've got the level swap out as well, that can give it another 1000. So it becomes a 9000 on defense, which at level 1 really isn't that bad. 8000 is pretty good. 9000 is great. So yeah, that's why we run a lot of acts in this deck and a lot of backups, because it allows you to keep this alive. And there's another card as well that, again, if you use an act ability, it gains power, which I'll come to when we hit our level 3 game. So yeah, having access to acts and stuff like that, especially when, again, you're going to have most likely more than 7 cards in hand into your opponent's turn. So having the ability to have these acts to keep your characters alive is just really good. And worst comes to worst, if you know you're in a matchup where you don't care about backups, it's a 0 cost character. You can just play it and just attack with it. That's fine. Like, you don't have to use this as a backup. Don't be afraid if you know your matchup, and don't be afraid to just play this as a character and attack with it. Keep the cards you need in hand for later on in terms of other utility cards, and just use it to attack. That is an option. So don't be afraid to do that. If you actually manage to win board, yes, you're only 2,000 power, but at the same time, it's a level 1. So if they want a side attack here, you're going to lose a soul. You know, there are reasons why this card is just nice to have, not only as a backup, but just as a character that you can spam now and play. Moving on to our final 2 level 1s, we run 2 copies of the Mother in Her Memories Itsuki Nakano. This card is what we call an adapt sheet. So when this card is reversed, if the character facing it is higher level than your opponent's actual level, i.e. if they've early played, or if they've changed, or if they've standbyed, anything like that, you may send the battle opponent to memory. That can be pretty big. Being able to wipe out things like the level 3 Canators, which can't get things back from memory. If you're playing against Kanata Marine, or again, if you're playing against 8 standby, and you know, you get rid of their 2/2s or their 3/2s when they've standbyed them in. This card is really good. This is why I run as a 2-of. In the current meta, because you're worrying about the likes of Hololive, you're worrying about the likes of Quintessential Quintuplets. This card is just a very good card to see if you need it. If you don't need it, fine, don't use it. But if you do need it, it's an absolutely great card to have. Its second effect, which actually is one that most people don't use, but it is useful in certain situations. So if your level is 3 or higher, this card gets the following ability. As an act, you may put this card into your waiting room, and if you do, you choose one of your opponent's characters and move it to an open slot in their choose one of your opponent's characters and move it to another open slot of their stage of standing, or choose another one of your opponent's characters, choose 2 of your opponent's characters and exchange them, basically swap them around. So if they've got a back row card, which is kind of a problem, or you want to bring a card forward so you can do a side attack to basically control damage and things like that, this card is really neat. And the fact that realistically all you got to do is you've got to pay 1 to play it and then use the effect. The cost isn't that big either. So to be able to disrupt your opponent's stage like that at level 3 can be huge. So very good card, and as a 2-of, I think it's great. And the final level 1 we run 2 copies of Knowing the Circumstances Itsuki Nakano. This card is, if you play a Door Climax, it gains the following effect, which is a pay 1 trigger twice, so a twin drive, and also it is a level 1 Slayer. That's good. So there are situations where you are playing against a standby build where they've got a level 1, like the Eris, for example, in Mushoku Tensei. You can't get over them because they get big, because they're 7/5 base. They've also gained 1,000 power for each of the 2/2 Galanes they've got out. So you can see like 8/5, 9/5, 10/5 on your Erises. So that's a big problem card. This just wipes them out, and you don't care. And the fact you get a twin drive as well if you play a climax means that you can fix, if you've got dirty stock, you can clean it. I like this card. I would run it as more of a 2-of, but again, space is limited. So I think 2 is fine. Again, this card is very good in certain matchups. And in my opinion, if there are cards that are good in certain matchups, they should only ever be 1 or 2-of. If they're good in general for your general deck thing and you want to see them, 4-of climax combo. You know, or 3-of, again, because they're consistent to see them. But if they're more there for certain matchups, 1 or 2 is fine. And that's it for level 1. Now moving on to level 2, we run 5 level 2 cards. 3 of those are Code Word. Code Word is the 2-1 event where on play, you may get a character from waiting room, add the hand, and then also you mill the top card of your deck. If that card is an Itsuki, you get to salvage again. It's potentially a solid +1. So it's really good as an event in that sense. But also, again, like we've already mentioned, it's a level 2. You can send it to level to basically make sure you've got the experience for your level 1 combo. The level 1 combo itself actually includes this card as a plus rather than a miss, where if it was just characters only. I'd like this card. Now, would I play it if I weren't playing Waifu? No. Because I'm playing Waifu though, I really rate this card. In the Itsuki build, this card is really good. The SR is also quite lewd. Moving on. So our other 2 level 2s, we run 1 copy of Belligerent Itsuki Nakano. This is a anti-change counter. So it's when you use this backup, it's a 2/5 backup, fine. But also, when you use this card backup, you may pay 2 and put a character from stage to your waiting room. If you do, choose one of your opponent's characters who is higher level than your actual opponent's level, and you may just send it to the waiting room. It deals with, again, Kanatas, deals with standby, it deals with a lot. So having this as a one-off is really good. And the other level 2 counter we run is this, the, hold up. I've made a boo-boo. So, you know earlier when I said that waifu decks can only have 4 non-waifu cards, that Miku is a 5th. Why did I not see this? I'm an idiot! Ah! Okay, maybe it's not waifu build. However, this card is still good, so we're still running it. I'm an idiot. So yes, coincidental encounter, Miku Nakano. It is a memory kick counter, so it's a 3k backup, and also when you use this card's backup, you choose the character in battle, and it gets the following ability. When this card's battle opponent becomes reversed, you may send that to memory. So it disrupts a lot of end of attack combos, like Slime with Rimuru in 8 choice. It also just, again, gets rid of problem cards and gets them off the stage for level 3s or level 2s that just can't get big enough on attack. Again, look at Kanata, they can only get to like 11, 12k. You could use this to get to maybe, I don't know, 12, 5, 13 and just hold your board. It's another backup, it's another act, it propagates your stuff, it's a good card. Moving very swiftly onto our level 3s. We run 4 copies of New Year Itsuki Nakano. This card is a early play, so as long as you've got 4 or more other cards with Itsuki in its name, this card gets -1 level in hand. Basically, you can play at level 2 rather than level 3. When this card is placed from stage to hand, you may heal 1 to put the top card of your clock into your waiting room, and then also it gains the following effect until your opponent's next turn. You may choose one of your opponent's characters, and that character cannot become reversed. Why is that good? So, the reason why it's useful is because of Slayers, Bombs, anti-change of characters. That's why this card is so good. So, imagine that your opponent is also playing Quint, and they play the level 1 Adachi here. Imagine they do that and they try and get rid of your early play. But if you make it so that that character cannot become reversed, they cannot activate their ability because they don't get reversed. So they do not lose the character on the field. It's quite neat. It's a bit niche, but it's neat. And the reason why I run this as a 4-of is because, 1, there's not a massive amount of green in the deck. So this is like the majority of your green, and you do expect to level one of these. But also, the reason why you do want to level one of these is because, again, your level 3 combo requires experience 6. So this is a level 3 that can just go straight into your level as soon as you can see it. So that's why you run this as a 4-of. You only ever expect to play 2, but you want to see it more of because you need your experience for your level 3 game. Not only that as well, if you use an act ability, this card gains 3000 power. So if you have the memory kit counter, for example, this is 8000 base. You activate this, gives it 3000 power from its own, the backups event. So it becomes 11k. Because you use an act ability, this gains another 3k. This becomes 14,000 on defense. If you've got the level swap, it becomes 15,000 on defense. And then with the memory kick event effect as well. Like, this is a good card. A lot of people underrate this. And I think this is a really good card, especially if you're running a high number of Itsukis. Again, would I run it if I wasn't running Itsuki Waifu? Probably not. But because I'm running Itsuki Waifu, it fits in perfectly. Moving on to the one of another early play, we have Kind Gaze Itsuki Nakano. It's a double ref from set 1. Again, if you've got 4 or more other characters in general, you can early play it at level 2. Not only that as well, as long as all of your characters are quintuplets, it gains 1,500 power, and the following ability, during your turn, gains an extra 1,000 power. So during your turn it's plus 2/5, during your opponent's turn plus 1/5. But there's other effect as well, as when this card is placed from stage to hand, you may look at up the top X cards and add a card to your hand, get rid of the rest, where X is equal to the number of quintuplets characters you have. So it's a top X dig for a card, for climax, for a level 3, anything like that. So it's not very often you play this, because usually your early game allows you to just get the card you need. But in that situation where you don't have the climax in hand, or you don't have the right level 3s in hand, or anything like that, this card fixes that very well and very quickly. And finally, the last card of the deck, we run 4 copies of On a Moonlit Night Itsuki Nakano. This is your level 3 combo, so on play, you may draw 2, ditch 1. And then also on attack with the other door, which is called Under the Moonlight, you may discard 3 characters from your hand, and if you do, you burn 1 and then you burn 4. Now, you would normally look at the cost of that and go, it's kind of crap, kind of not good. But the reason why it works in this deck, you've got a level 1 combo that's going to be consistently giving you characters, or the event which then turns into characters, because that's exactly what the event does. You also run the brainstorm, which means that your hand size, when you go to attack, you can easily have 10, 11, 12 cards in hand ready for your combo. And the fact that it doesn't cost you stock as well means that you just got to worry about having 6 stock in there, playing your level 3s, getting the card in hand. In fact, also as well, it replaces itself in your hand because of the draw 2 ditch 1. So you can go into your, you can basically go into your level 3 turn, into your finishing turn, and have only 5-6 cards in hand, which is not difficult in this deck. And you can still combo this twice. You can then potentially use the event to get extra cards. You can brainstorm to get extra cards. This card compresses very well. It usually means that your brainstorms hit at least 1, maybe 2, sometimes 3. I've not had it hit 4 yet. But getting cards to hand is not difficult in this deck, I promise you. So don't be afraid about the cost being discarding 3 characters. One thing I forgot to mention, it is experience. Like I said, it's experience 6, meaning that you must have combined levels in your level zone of 6 or greater. Otherwise, you cannot use the climax combo. So again, that's why it's so important. Level 1, sorry, going into level 1, level your 2-1 event. Going into level 2, level the 3-2. Going into level 3, one of your level 1s is fine. And that's why you have a high level 1 count, because you can just, again, level 1 of your level 1s to ensure you get your experience. Again, if you haven't got the levels there, use your level swap to fix that. This deck is actually so fun. If you've seen me play on the stream yet, it is such a fun deck to play. It allows you to be so greedy by keeping cards in hand, getting cards to hand, constantly pushing for damage and attack. I actually really enjoy this build. Is it the best Quints deck? No, it is absolutely not. But for a waifu build, ignoring the Miku, ignoring the Miku, given that it's a waifu build, I really like this deck, and it's a really, really strong deck. What would I change to actually make it waifu? I'd probably drop this and run a second of this, because it's still a 2/5 backup, because there isn't an Itsuki that's a memory kit counter. I don't know if it gets one in movie set, I could be wrong, but there isn't a memory kit counter in Itsuki as far as I'm aware. Please correct me if I'm wrong, and if it is in movie set, my god, I need it. Yeah, well, that's if it comes to English. Let's find out. What do you think? Do you think it will come to English? I hope it does. That'd be interesting. Anyway, yeah, overall, this deck, very good. Is it meta? No. Is it a solid tier 2? Yes. It's a very solid tier 2. Its game plan is pretty linear. You've got loads of ways to basically maintain your board. You've got loads of ways to just constantly plus to hand and give yourself options. A lot of decks tend to compress to memory or to stock, whereas this deck actually compresses to hand, which is quite neat. Yeah, I love this deck. I think it's really fun, really unique in the sense of how it just pluses the hand. And it really plays into, if you've got a greedy playstyle, it really plays into that. So for me, this is great. But yeah, that's the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, let me know, would you make any changes to this deck? What would you change this counter to? Or would you change one of the Rickies or the Climate Swapper? Would you change any of those to make this an actual waifu deck? Let me know in the comments below. And again, would there be any other changes you would make? But yeah, thanks for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure to hit that like button. And if you want to already and you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Again, we try and upload a video as often as we can. I've had a really busy time lately where I've been focusing on launching a new store. I hope to do a video on that, summarizing the whole launch party and things like that. So I hope you're looking forward to that. If you haven't seen it, Elite Gaming Lounge in Colville, Leicestershire, UK, come check us out. We're an official Yu-Gi-Oh store. We're an official Weiss Schwarz store. We're also looking to do Pokemon, Magic, Digimon, as well as doing all our tabletop for Warhammer, Dungeons and Dragons. We've got loads of games consoles as well. We're going to be doing events and all sorts, so come check us out. I'll leave a link to our website below. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your patience in terms of waiting for this video. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate the support on the Discord. Again, if you aren't part of our community, join our Discord community. It's really cool. There are about 200 people on there now. It's getting bigger and better, and it's really awesome. So if you want to come and join us, please do. Links in the description below. And also check out my other socials, Twitter, Twitch, Patreon. If you want to support the channel, please do. And apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye!